Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Welcome to another ranking video. In today's video, I'm going to be ranking all of the Ben 10 original aliens. There are 22 of them here. If I forgot one, who cares? It's just supposed to be for fun. I was originally just going to do top 10s for all of them, but it doesn't quite work for all the series. So I decided to, for each series, just rank all the new aliens you got in that series, and then eventually I'll do probably a brand new top 10 aliens. But let's go ahead and get started because there is quite a lot of them. I'm not going to be too quick, but I'm going to try not to overstay the welcome on any explanation. So, coming in at the bottom of the list is Spitter. I don't hate this alien at all, it just happens to be my least favorite. I actually do like its design and concept. There's a lot I like about the designs of the original series, the way they approached it. They kind of brought that back a bit in Omniverse, where in Alien Force and Ultimate Alien, they tended to have a lot of very super heroic feeling and looking aliens, which don't get me wrong, I like. Some of my top favorite ones are from that era, but I did miss having ones that just felt like a weird little alien species that had a specific power that Ben managed to use for heroic purposes, and this one just firing off like goo at high speeds, and the look of it definitely clicks that box, or checks that box, whatever, it does something to the box. Heyo. I do like about the design, it just happens to be my least favorite. Albeit also there was something exciting about seeing this because it was in the Ben 10,000 episode and it was kind of getting like a sneak peek into future aliens, even though it took us like multiple different series and creative teams to get it, if I remember right. Following that with Upchuck, this is another one where, similar to Spitter, I love the idea behind it in terms of its abilities and looking more like a weird alien creature instead of just super heroic, and I actually do prefer some of the updated designs. This one's just never been for me, like I don't care for this design version as much. Following that up with Ditto, I think the best thing about Ditto was his voice actor. I can't remember off the top of my head if they kept the OG series voice actor for his subsequent appearances, but in the original series, the sort of almost talk show host personality he had was a lot of fun, and I appreciated that this one's only ability was duplicating. Like, it wasn't like, oh, duplicating and fires fireballs or has super strength. Like, it required him to be a little more strategic, and it did have a very unique design to it. It's just never been a huge favorite of mine. Next up is Ripjaws. Ripjaws is kind of always, like, not the butt of the joke, but he's kind of always forgotten because his abilities, like, kind of require him to be in water, unlike later transformations that allow Ben to swim and then be outside of water or have other abilities beyond it. But I think he's underappreciated. I think he has a really cool design. I love it being based off the anglerfish. I think it looks pretty badass, honestly, and I think he has some really badass redesigns in later series. In fact, I'm trying to figure out how to do some sort of video where I like rank the redesigns. Like, I'm not sure how to do it because you had different redesigns in each series, and then Omniverse specifically had many different redesigns for some of them, and I'd like to figure out a way to do it. Like, I can't imagine doing a video for each one, like every Ripjaws ranked or every Heat Blast, but I want to figure out a way to do that. But even though he's low on the list, I'm an appreciator of Ripjaws. Then you have Eye Guy, which is just kind of a fun one because his like head is based off of like echolocation, like he's blind, but then he has eyes everywhere. I love that juxtaposition, and I thought he was just kind of a fun and quirky alien for that. Next up is Buzzshock, which I almost forgot about. Like, I looked up on the wiki to see if I was forgetting anyone. I forgot these little battery-based aliens. I think they're a fun time. They're one of Ben's many electrokinesis aliens, but the way they kind of travel through like electric lines and stuff is unique, and them being based off of batteries is a bit of fun as well. Following that up with Way Big, which I feel like people are gonna be expecting to be more high up on the list because it's a Toku reference. If anything, a Toku reference is gonna get you marked down instead of up. But this was a cool design. I liked it. It's basically just Ultraman. I think it's a cool enough design. I've always appreciated it for what it was. I do appreciate that they, paid homage to Ultraman, but it's never been a huge favorite of mine. Especially, spoiler alert, whenever I rank the Ultimate Aliens, Ultimate Way Big. Like, I don't know, that just was just kind of like, it's Way Big, but different designed. Was he even bigger? Was he the same size? I don't know. Next up is Frankenstrike. I am an appreciator of these aliens, especially as we get the redesigns. As a horror fan, getting these like based on classic monster designs was really cool, and I thought this was a really neat design. I really liked it. I thought it was a cool concept there, and having the electricity concept because of them awakening Frankenstein with an electric shock, I thought was really neat. I think this is another one where I prefer some of the later designs though. Following that up with, I think they called it Blitzwolfer. This is another one I appreciate for the same reasons. I have two minds on this one. I feel like the first design looks the most alien. Like, obviously all of his designs are basically straightforward wolf with a bit of alien in there, and I think they lean more into the wolf aspects in later ones, and just on paper I do like those more. Like, I think the Omniverse one might be my favorite, but I'm not sure. But I do appreciate that this one is a little bit more alien feeling than the others, and I love the concept of like the hypersonic howling, and if I remember right, his like mouth opens to 4 different prongs. So even though I prefer some of the other designs because I think they look cooler and wolfier, this one is really neat for having a little bit more alien influence, I felt. Plus the way they transformed him with like it being a slow transformation with the Omnitrix was pretty cool. Stingfly, he had like a Geomon voice if I remember right. Stingfly's another one that's pretty cool because he's very useful, but I like that also, like I talked about earlier, he's very much just an alien that could exist on his own planet and his powers aren't all that special. I mean, basically, the main power Ben gets from this is being able to fly, which is no big deal for Stingfly species, but Ben being able to fly is obviously a heroic ability for any normal human. And then you have just stuff like firing off the gunk, and he's got like a sharp tail. So I like that it managed to be like a superhero-powered alien for Ben, but for Stingfly's species, it was just kind of every other day for it. Well, every day for it. You wouldn't have your own abilities every other day. Next up is Wild Mutt, another appreciation for this one, with it being like a non-superheroic designed one. And I like that it kind of looks like it's going to be an alien that's going to be in the, what was it called? Not the Nemetrix. The Nemetrix, I think it was the Nemetrix, the one that had the predator species. But it looks like it's going to be an animal, like this, like lower intelligence, but it's smarter. And I love the idea that this one's actually pretty useful. Like it's pretty strong, it's got sharp claws, kind of gives Ben beast-like strength, but it has him being a little bit more strategic when he's in it. And I like the idea that it kind of has like Daredevil-esque powers too. Next up is Wildvine. This is one I didn't realize I appreciated so much, and I think what I like about it is it very much reminds me of the aliens in Osmosis Jones. I feel like I remember there being a lot of Osmosis Jones. They're not aliens, but you know, the characters in Osmosis Jones have a very specific style to them, and this just kind of reminds me of that for some reason. With a single eye, it kind of reminds me of the one-eyed alien from Lilo and Stitch. I can't remember the name, but it does have a really good design for being like an alien plant. Like they made it much more heroic, classic humanoid feeling in the reboot, but I loved the more wild alien look of this one. Arctic Guana, another alien we got a sneak preview of in the Ben 10,000 episode, which just made it exciting in general. And this is what I've appreciated more and more over the years. Again, it has more of an alien creature-like design, not going for super heroic like Big Chill. Plus, I love a good pun. Love a good pun. Next up is Upgrade, a very underappreciated alien. I like that they gave him a little bit more of a prominent role in the early parts of the reboot, but this is a really cool design. Like, it's very simple, but it conveys the alien aspect, and I think it has a really cool power, like the fact that he can like take over and upgrade tech, and then if I remember right in later series, he can like remember it. Like if he takes over a robot with a laser gun hand, he can then like form that laser gun hand. Like it's a super cool ability that I wish was used more in the original run. Next up is Forearms, a very classic alien. I think they did a good job here of basically giving you a kind of like boxing, martial arts, not martial arts, but like wrestling character that was like a Martian. That's just honestly really cool. I think it's really well done. I especially just love the design in the original series with Ben's t-shirt adapted to it. It just works really well for me. And it does a good job of being an alien that looks more like a superhero, but also still feeling very alien. Next up, Gray Matter. Speaking of alien, I love that we had like a classic gray alien design in here. I think it just really works. It's kind of one of those classic OG series designs for me. And I love the idea that this was a form, though Ben often transformed into accidentally, was one that forced him to think outside the box and often led to fun episodes and sequences where instead of punching his way through the problem like Forearms, he had to think of intelligent ways to do things. You have Accelerate, which I think is just a really cool alien. It very much like reminds me of the movie Alien, which I think is the point sort of with the head, where it kind of doubles as looking like, you know, bike helmets and stuff for like sports where you would have a helmet where you're going at high speeds, and also like a runner wearing like runner's gear, and then you got the blades, but then you have that very much so xenomorph influence, which is just really neat, and I think it works really well. Kind of like with Forearms, where you take the idea of heroic wrestler, merge it with a Martian. This is like a speed alien merged with the xenomorph, which is really cool. Following that up with Snarrow, my favorite of the original horror trio aliens, at least in these designs. I have to, again, go to those rankings and figure out which ones I like better when you get into the redesigns, but this was a really cool concept. It definitely didn't look the most alien. It looked like he was transforming more into an actual horror creature, but I thought it had a really cool design, and I love the sort of unique power design of kind of these stretchy and like move apartable, that's not a word, but you know, bandages. I thought that was a really cool and unique ability that made him stand out. Next up, Ghost Freak. Speaking of horror, this was a really cool alien. Just a very well-designed alien that, just to repeat myself again, I think like with Forearms and Accelerate, they did a good job of taking a concept and then making it feel alien. I loved the creepy voice it had. I think the idea of it having an uglier underside that scared people was cool, but I love the cloaked form of it. I thought it was kind of cool to have this storyline where one of the 10 aliens winds up being a villain. I was really glad Ben got it back later. I wish he would have used it more, and I think some of the redesigns are pretty cool too, but I've always been a big fan of this form. Now, coming into the top 3, we have Cannonbolt. Cannonbolt is just kind of an adorable alien, and I've always had kind of a soft spot for him ever since he showed up, and it was kind of one of the most exciting ones to see, as I believe the first transformation Ben used from the old days when he got the Master Control from Alien Force, so it was super exciting to see that back. But this is one that includes something that I really like that I've mentioned multiple times on this list, which is an alien that has kind of a mundane ability in regards to their species. Like, I think if I remember right when I was reading random profiles, that like his species basically basically rolls up in that ball to move around their planet, and then of course they're going to develop kind of a calloused hard shell to do that, and the fact that Ben can use that in a way that basically makes him a wrecking ball, I really like. It makes the design really memorable and kind of adorable, but then you also have this aspect of it's not like a fire breather or a flight alien, it just is using an ability that this alien uses to traverse its planet and turning it into something useful. And that even rolls into like the way he's debuted, where Ben initially sees him as useless until he can figure out how to use it. Next up though, very cliche to be very high up, is Heat Blast. I don't think they do as good a job as some of the other ones making this look alien, but it's still just a really cool design. You can just see why people like it and why it's so popular. But in particular, I like it because it was voiced by Steve Blum, and I love Steve Blum as a voice actor, but it very much then reminded me, of course, of Flamedramon, the Fire of Courage. And that kind of made that connection in my brain, so it was kind of like this spiritual successor to Flamedramon, which is one of my favorite Digimon, which was really neat to me. And I was so disappointed. Why did they never bring him back for Heat Blast? Like, I know they had Derek Wyatt voicing everybody in the Alien Force Ultimate Alien era, but I think if I remember, they brought back Steve Blum to do Vilgax and Omniverse, but they never brought him back for Heat Blast, because in my opinion, his voice as Heat Blast was like iconic. Like, I could never believe they didn't bring him back at some point. But number one for me, you might have heard from my other reviews or other rankings, is Diamond Head. This has just been always such a cool alien for me. I thought it had such a unique power, just him using the diamonds both for defense, but he can also project them and manipulate them into different shapes. I also loved that crystal-y sound he made when he moved in the original series, which I believe they brought back in Omniverse. It was just always such a standout alien. Definitely leaning more towards the heroic, but you have enough like alien characteristics in there. But for me, it was the obvious design, but also just the unique nature of the powers. It wasn't like super outside the box, like he doesn't have serial kinesis or something, I don't know. But it was like different than your traditional like flying, super strength fire, and it made for a really distinct alien. I also, if I remember right, there was something that said that he was originally going to be the 11th alien, and it very much looks like an 11th alien 6 Ranger type of character. But that is just my list. You don't have to rank all of yours, but maybe let me know your top 5, top 10 original series Ben 10 aliens. At some point in the future, the next video will then be ranking my favorite Alien Force aliens. But until next time, Dawson Ryder signing out.